Welcome to the Real Estate Masters Podcast, where we interview the top names in the real estate game. If you want to grow your real estate business, see more podcasts, or get free resources, go to www.remcommunity.com. The only podcast that allows you to directly connect with the guests and many of the highest level names in the real estate game.
You are in for a treat with our next guest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to go to remcommunity.com to connect with some of the highest level real estate professionals in the United States through our community and through our high level masterminds. Let's go. All right, welcome. We've got Nick Perry on the line out of Austin, Texas. Nick started his real estate business 6 years ago and has grown it dramatically. He invests nationwide now with his wholesaling business, does over 250 transactions a year. And I'd love to hear how he got started and how he went from nothing 6 years ago to building a nationwide real estate investing business, which is not easy. Most people are trying to find their first deal, and Nick's doing an average of almost a deal a day. I'm sure he'll get there here pretty soon. So thanks for jumping on, Nick. How was your day so far, man?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, man. It's not easy, but it's worth it, right? So anybody that's looking to get up to that point, it's definitely a journey, but you got to have thick skin and be ready to just tackle whatever comes at you. But when I started, there wasn't great podcast and content out there like there is now. So hopefully I can share some things that shortcut some of that pain and the learning curve that goes into it.
Yeah. So you expanded nationwide. So tell us about that. Again, most people have trouble finding their first deal. And then even if they find their first deal, scaling it to a sustainable business is another thing. So tell us about your journey, how you started in the market that you started with, and how and why you expanded in other markets.
Yeah, happy to do that. So when I first started, I live in Austin, Texas, originally from Northern Virginia, but I started my real estate investing career in Austin. And, was doing all the typical marketing you do when you start up, handwriting letters on your kitchen table, doing hundreds and hundreds of bandit signs, every night, going and, knocking on doors, cold calling, all those, free to, cheap ways of marketing. And I had, very little success doing it because Austin's a very competitive market. So it took me 11 months to get my first deal. It was an uphill battle. I think I went on it was 104 appointments before I got my first deal. Mm-hmm. And then, I started, ramping up my marketing with the money from my first deal and putting it into direct mail, PPC. And I had a good job at the time. I was doing inside sales at Indeed.com. I was making like $200,000, $225,000 a year there. And so I would just take all the time that I had in the evenings and all the time I had on the weekends to pursue my real estate investing dream. And I took all my commission money from my 9-to-5 and poured it into the real estate investing business. But to elaborate on how I went from just doing Austin and nationwide is in Austin, it's not a great wholesale market. It's a lot like San Diego, where you're going to have a super high cost per deal. So I noticed it was, costing me anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 to generate a closed deal in Austin. Mm-hmm. And the amount of leads that you have to go through to get that deal, it wasn't really shaking out numbers wise. And so I started marketing down in San Antonio. I started marketing in Houston, some of the two-share markets of Austin, some of the suburbs, and was having success doing that. So I would, put out my marketing in Houston or San Antonio and line up a bunch of appointments during the week. And I'd spend my weekends in Houston or San Antonio, which is, 2-3 hours away from Austin. Mm-hmm. And I'd, have 5 or 6 appointments every weekend. And I'd, go and do 1 or 2 appointments on Saturday, stay the night in, Houston or San Antonio, do 2 or 3 appointments the next day, drive home with a couple signed contracts and go to work at my 9-to-5 on Monday. And so that's kind of how it started. And then in 2016, 2017, I was really getting into online lead generation. So pay-per-click advertising, SEO, and my SEO, I was crushing it across a lot of keywords back then. And I was optimizing to get more leads in Austin, San Antonio, Houston. But what ended up happening was I started getting leads all over the country, pretty much everywhere besides where I wanted to generate leads.
Did you do the SEO yourself, or did you hire a company to do that?
I did it myself. I went down the wormhole and watched every, YouTube guru on SEO back in 2016, and I had some consultants that helped me out and things like that. But I did it mostly myself. Spent way too much time doing it. That's what happened was I started getting leads everywhere, and I would throw them out. Right, I would just, if they weren't Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, one of the major MSAs in Texas, I'd discard them. And so there came to a point where I was like, you know what? I was already starting to get to the point where I was closing some of my Houston, San Antonio deals over the phone at this point. I was like, well, what's the difference? As long as I can find a buyer in one of these other markets, like, why do I really care where it is? So I started taking a shot on those leads that I was actually just throwing out. So I think the first super far away deal I did in another state was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere, right? I got the property under contract. I got it under contract for $18,000. I called a few of few people from just on Zillow, some realtors, and they're like, yeah, I know some investors, and they were able to help me connect the dots. I made $12,000, and then I was like, all right, well, there's a proof of concept right there, and it was kind of off to the races. And then that's how from there I built an entire business model based on that.
So now at this point, you don't have dedicated markets you go to. You just kind of do SEO, online marketing, and it just goes out everywhere? Or do you actually pick certain markets and build a team out in those markets?
No, we're literally nationwide. So we blanket the entire country.
Okay, cool.
Now there's certain markets where we have campaigns specifically set up because we're more profitable in certain counties than other counties, right? So we target our dollars into certain regions of the U.S., but we also blanket the entire United States as well.
Cool. So how do you structure that? So you've got 9 employees, right? And so I imagine.
Yeah, it's like 9, or I think we're at 10 or 11 now.
Okay, cool. So leads come in, you have your team work on those, and you lock up the deal, and then you find buyers in those locations. So it's you don't have to close on them. You said you wholesale some deals, right?
Yeah.
You typically get them under contract. You find another buyer. If you have to, you contact a real estate agent, help you close the deal. So really, you don't have offices set up in other locations. Do you guys work virtually, or do you have an office in Austin that people work
Yeah,
at?
no, I'll kind of show you my setup. So I'm at my office right now. This is my office that I'm in, and then this is my sales floor we're walking out to right now. Some of my guys are still at lunch, but you can kind of get an idea. We got the ping pong table and
Nice.
all of the acquisitions around here. These guys are at lunch, and then this is our dispositions department. So these are the guys that are reaching out to investors and real estate agents all over the country, moving our properties.
That's awesome, man. This is the first podcast
kind of the structure
tour
of my
I've ever
team.
done. Yeah, it's the first podcast tour I've ever done, man. That's a cool little setup you got there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I put a lot of hard work into the office. The guys like it, so it works out good.
So what would you say, the biggest thing from going from nothing back 6 years ago to where you are now? If there was one or two key lessons or things that you could share with our audience that got you to this point, what would you say those actions, those steps, those tips, whatever it is that you have that got you to where you are now?
Yeah, it's really hard work and tenacity. I think most people starting any business grossly underestimate the amount of sacrifice that you have to give up. And if I wasn't so deranged, I don't think I would be able to make it through all the pain. You have to have that internal drive to succeed at all costs, no matter what. And you've got to have almost that chip on your shoulder, or that fire within you to be able to make it. You can't go into, I know this sounds like really generic advice, I'm not telling you guys anything groundbreaking, but you cannot underestimate the amount of work it's going to take. I think we've heard this probably all in other, lessons, is you underestimate what you can do. It's like you overestimate what you can do in a year, but you grossly underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And in my case, I've been doing this 6 years. And where I'm at right now, this was a far off dream. 6 years ago when I was handwriting letters from my 1-bedroom apartment in the hood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of hard work in the beginning. I was the same way, man. First, probably 10 years of my business, man, I worked 60 to 80 hours a week. Now, my philosophy is work smarter, work less, and grow my business without having to work as much. And it's funny because I did a podcast recently with someone, and they said entrepreneurs, which kind of like you and I, most entrepreneurs are similar, where we work so hard it's almost like we have a mental illness. It's like something happened in our lives that like we had to work hard to like prove something. I don't know what it is, but like,
right.
So let me ask you this. So like 6 years, are you slowing down? Are you speeding up? Like what?
Dude, we're just getting warmed up, man. What are you talking about? I'm 31 years old. Like we're just getting started. So, like right now, I think we're, getting to the point where we're one of the top wholesaling companies, but that's not, I want to be the number one real estate investor of all time in the world, hands down. Like, when one of the things that I came into the real estate was like, I want to be the best of all time. Like if you're going to do anything in your life, like you might as well strive to be the best at it, right? If you're going to, play a sport, try to be the best at it. So, what's that entail for me is like, hey, we're starting a commercial division right now. We're going to start acquiring multifamily commercial property, and that I'm excited about that because now I get to go be a beginner again and start building that up. I've got a really great team and a COO that's running my operations for my wholesaling business. I'm still actively involved in it, but I'm excited to go start doing commercial and climbing the ladder of doing that next.
So what are your goals with that? So actually tell me about your goals with the real estate investing in the houses themselves. Like, do you want to share any goals? Is there anything that you like are striving for in specific, like that would make you feel like, okay, I've met my goal. Like this is what I'm striving to do.
Yeah. Right now it's, I used to have a goal of like, hey, how many people can we bring on? How much, top line revenue can we make? But for me now, it's about running a healthy organization. I redlined the shit out of my business for, years, and I made a lot of money, but I didn't keep a lot of money, right? So now it's all about how much are we bringing into the bottom line? And obviously I have, huge goals of continuing to grow this over time, but not to the point that it's unhealthy growth, right? So I want to continue to strategically, scale up marketing. When I really started doing big numbers, I levered down on credit cards and, went like 200 grand in the hole, and my deal shot up and, my business took off. But, there was just a lot of stress and anxiety that went into that. So now it's about operating a healthy business and growing it sustainably so we can, be here for a long, long time. So that's my goal in the single family space, is to run a healthy organization, good balance sheet, good profit margins, make sure all my people are well taken care of. And then on the commercial side, it's to be, the best of all time. So you look at guys like Tim Bratz and, Grant Cardone. I think we've got, an organization and a team of guys that can go in and duplicate a lot of their systems and really adopt a lot of their philosophies to be able to take off and hit the ground running with that. So that's my next venture. And, you look at, goals for that, that's a whole nother realm. You're talking, the guys at the top of their game there are multi-billionaires. So that's what excites me about that.
By the way, I've got a commercial real estate guy I got to connect you with. He started his commercial real estate Business, I would say I've known him for 20 years. I think about 10 years ago, he started his business. It took him like probably 5 or 6 years of hard work to even start doing like, any kind of decent deals. Now I get emails from him because I'm on his investor list. I'm invested in a couple of his deals, and I think he's over 150 million dollars in real estate. Just, I mean, a lot of that's in the last like 3, 4 years.
Right.
So I got a good connection for you, man. I'll connect you with him if you'd like to. He syndicates all his deals, man. I get emails now. He's like, I've got a $10 million deal. That was a big deal at one point. Now he's trying to do like 20, 25 million, $30 million deals. So it's another world, man. It's awesome. It's a lot of, a lot of opportunity. You just add another zero to the end of it. And really it's a lot of people say once they get it scaled up, it's about the same amount of work to do like a high level house flip as it is to just raise money and do a deal on the commercial real estate side that's 10 times bigger.
Exactly. So, I'm really excited about that to go back and be a beginner again and get that scaled up. Outside of that, I own a trucking business as well. So I've got semi trucks. So continuing to add more trucks to my trucking fleet. That's also something that's exciting. That's the great thing about wholesaling is you can strategically allocate capital once you have money. I think this is like the only business that you can go from dead broke and be able to build yourself up to being a millionaire. I don't know a whole lot of other businesses out there that you can do that.
Yeah, no doubt. And even on the commercial real estate side, some guys do 1 or 2 deals and they're millionaires. So a lot of good opportunity there, obviously.
Absolutely.
So, well, cool, man. So what kind of marketing method would you, because that's like the biggest thing. Like right now, it's so competitive in so many different markets. Besides SEO, what would you recommend people dial down on when they're trying to find more deals and scale up?
I mean, I spend $60,000 to $80,000 a month on pay-per-click advertising, so that's where the majority of my marketing budget goes. We also do cold calling, SMS, a little bit of it, not as much as we did back in 2019, just because we get a better return from PPC. That's something that I've taken upon myself to learn, over time. Back in 2014, I stalked Dan Barrett with AdWords Nerds Down, and I skipped out on a work trip in New York City to go meet him in Connecticut, and got him to agree to mentor me on how to do PPC.
Nice.
And he did. So paid him a little bit of money. He mentored me and showed me the principles on how to be successful in pay-per-click advertising within our space. And then, I just continued to build on that knowledge and educate myself. And so I still manage our PPC to this day. I've outsourced it to agencies before, and multiple agencies to, see if they could do a better job than me. And every time it's been a disaster. So I advise everybody that asks me about PPC is take the time and the initiative to learn how to do it yourself. I haven't found a good agency that can really do it to scale in a cost-effective manner. So.
Right. So you dial in and you do it yourself. You don't have anybody on your team do it. You dial in and do it all yourself.
Yeah, because with PPC, you got to make a lot of counterintuitive judgment calls and things like that, and you'll learn those as you manage. Not that much work at all. I check in on my campaigns. I could check in on them, once a week or once a month if I wanted to. I'm a nerd when it comes to online advertising. So I'll get in there and, I'll have my coffee in the morning, check on my campaign, see how I did yesterday. If I need to make any adjustments, I'll do it. And then it's off to the rest of my day.
How do you track that stuff? I mean, we might get a little too granular with this, but I know there's a lot of experienced real estate investors that are going to be listening to this. But so how do you dial down on that? Because obviously there's like cost per click, there's cost per lead, there's the tracking you have to do for the conversions. There's all kinds of different intricate details. I don't know how far you want to go down in that, but what are some main metrics that you look at on your PPC campaigns that could help out the listeners?
Cost per lead is the main driver, right? So, I'll I'll buy as many leads as I can at a certain price, right? So being nationwide, my lead costs are a lot cheaper than if you were just marketing in San Diego, or if I was just marketing in Austin. It's the way the algorithm um, favors the locations. The more narrow you target, the higher your cost per lead is going to be. The more broad you are, the less it's going to be, because Google has more people to show your ads in front of, and it wants to spend your money.
Mm-hmm.
So being nationwide, my cost per lead is around $60.
Wow.
And that's what you say. Wow. It used to be way cheaper when I was like the only one
Well, of course, right? When you're
doing it.
looking at signs and you're knocking on doors, right?
It was like $8 when I started doing nationwide PPC. Now it's $60, but I'm still happy with it. So,
Is it
really,
because of the competition? Is that why it went up so much?
I think so. There's a lot more advertisers bidding on the same keywords around the country, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are blanketing states, and everybody's going virtual now. So
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But I look heavily at cost per lead, right? So I'm looking at what's our cost per lead. Can I drive more leads at this cost?
Mm-hmm.
And if cost per lead gets too high, then you got to diagnose, hey, why is it, what's going on here, right? Are we showing up for search terms that we don't want to be showing up for? Is there a certain keyword that's just not converting well? There's your basic triage that you do on your campaign, and you measure and just continue to optimize it. So, and that's the nice thing about PPC is the more time you spend grooming it, it gets better and better as time goes on.
Right. So as far as the deals that you wholesale, so basically you market in other cities, you put the deals under contract without looking at them, and then you wholesale them. And what happens if you can't find a buyer? Is there ever times when you don't find buyers, or do you typically have a pretty good track record of finding a buyer for deals that you put under contract?
No, it happens all the time, where we won't be able to find a buyer. Like I'd say, 65% of our deals we close will actually get funded on. Then the other 35%, it's either a buyer issue, a title issue, or a seller issue, or my team, messed up on the ARV, or they underestimated on the repairs, and we have to release the contract. So, we don't, that's obviously a waste of everybody's time. We don't ever want that to happen, but it happens. It's part of the business, especially being nationwide. We account in, hey, we're only, I tell my team, only count on 1 out of every 2 going through. Even though our numbers are better than that, I just tell them that so they're not mentally defeated, when contracts are falling apart.
Right, for sure. So how do you decide whether you're going to wholesale it or not? I know for us, we were talking before we started that, right now the market's hot. So when we buy a property, now we're wholesaling quite a few of them, depending on the area and that type of thing. So we run the numbers, and again, we're making, as much money on wholesales as we would if we were rehabbing them. How do you run your numbers on those? What's your method on whether you wholesale a property, take it down, or whether you just wholesale it out traditionally?
A lot of it has to do with some of the variables that you just brought up. Is what are the pros and cons? Are we looking at we can get a 10K assignment fee on this versus, hey, we could wholesale this very easily and get 40, right? That's a no-brainer to me. If it's in a good location that's got low days on market, it's not going to cause us a lot of bandwidth to get it done. Like I said, we're not doing heavy construction on anything. So, I think I've got like 5 or 6 wholesales going on right now. And the most extensive one is, we're putting in some new floors, fixing a garage door, and doing some paint.
Just making it livable, basically.
Yeah, just making it livable. We'll do some cosmetic updates, fixtures, maybe countertops, maybe some new appliances, but we're not doing anything above and beyond that. Like I said, I've done a lot of rehabs before in the past. I got a lot of respect for you to be able to build a business off that, it's just not my strong point. I'm a sales and marketing guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it used to be we'd make $5,000 on a wholesale deal and we'd make 20 to 50 grand on a rehab. But like I said, now the market's so hot that we could, like we just wholesaled one the other day. Actually, we closed on it yesterday. It was a 2-week close and we made 20, it was like 22 or 25 grand on it. Had we rehabbed it, we would have made 17 grand. I mean, it's just crazy. So it just depends on what you want, what your, my team's built out. I rehab for almost 20 years. So, we built that team out, but you're right. It's I just talking about on a podcast earlier today, it was like, you got to look at your return on time, wholesaling is obviously a better return on time, but if you could put a little extra effort into making 2, 3, 4, or 5 times as much money, you just have to calculate that risk. Right. So
absolutely. And, we'll probably continue to, do more and more. We're actually starting to take on more of those wholesale projects. But we have to be selective, like you said, with our time, and we got to also look at our capital allocation as well, right? Like, how quick are you going to be able to get a return on your money? Like, what's the velocity of capital into your business? The cash conversion cycle in this business in general is terrible already. Even in wholesaling, this is not like a SaaS business where somebody swipes their card and we're getting paid, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to be cognizant of those things as well.
Cool, man. So what else do you want to share? Anything else you want to dive into? What are some other, actually, I was going to ask you, tell me about your team. Like it's one of the biggest things with entrepreneurs that I hear is like one of the toughest things is finding good people. And for the first 10 years of my business, I felt the same way. It was like, I was pulling my hair out, finding the wrong contractors, the wrong people to work in my business. And for me, I just had to step up my game. I paid people more. I found higher quality people. I screened them better. I interviewed them better. I found better processes to hire. So for you going from 0 employees 6 years ago to 9 employees and running a pretty good sustainable business, how would you say that you were able to build that so quickly?
Well, I worked at Indeed as a senior account executive. So my job was talking to, vice president of human resources for, medium to enterprise level businesses. So I got, a behind the curtain view on a lot of the best practices for hiring. And I was consulting them on how to hire as well. So I lived and breathed that HR before I was in real estate. So I already came in with kind of a leg up when it came to, hiring and attracting, top talent. And I kind of adopted the same principles that I learned at Indeed into my real estate investing business. So, we outsource a lot of our recruitment, which means, we have, me and my COO, we're not sitting there doing a lot of preliminary phone screens or interviews or posting jobs. That's a $5-10 an hour task. So we've $15 an hour most tasks. You can get if you have a position that you're hiring for, I would highly advise anybody that's listening to this, find somebody. I don't care who it is, your sister, your aunt. Anybody that's got some common sense that doesn't mind working maybe a couple hours a day. This could be a very part-time thing. You don't need to make a big deal out of it and go hire a recruiter. But if you know somebody that wants a few part-time hours, tell them, hey, I need you to find me an acquisition manager. This is what I'm looking for. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the ads. I need you to just make sure that they're uploaded fresh on Indeed. Make sure we're getting enough applicants coming in. And then when these applicants come in, I want you to talk to them, tell them about the position, interview them, phone screen them, see if they're even worth our time before we go any further. Mm-hmm. So that right there, that if you can outsource that whole top of funnel in recruitment, it saves a drastic amount of time.
Like 90% of your time going through the applicants and pre-screening them and getting rid of all the garbage.
Correct. Yeah. So pay your brother, your sister, your neighbor that's got a kid that's in between jobs or going to college. Pay them 10, 15 bucks an hour part-time and say, hey, I need you to help me out with a project. Can you help me out? And then tell them, I need you to help me find somebody. And very easy. Like, we just finished hiring a few people. Brandon's mom, my COO's mom, was doing it. Before then, I had my sister doing it. So anybody with, a common sense and a few hours and an internet connection can take care of that whole recruiting top of funnel for you. And then once they pass you over the warm candidates, don't even have them come into the office just yet. Have them just schedule a phone screen for you. So say, hey, if they're good, pop a calendar invite on my calendar with their resume attached, and tell them to call me. Tell them I'm not going to call them, and make sure they call me on time.
You know what? I do one better. I have them do a Zoom interview. I'll give them like 5 questions, and I'll say, pop up your Zoom, answer these 5 questions, upload it into, I'll give them specific instructions, put in Google Drive, name it a certain name, send it over to me. So number 1, I see if they follow instructions. And then 2, I can tell within like 30 seconds, usually, if they're going to be a decent candidate based on the way they interact and their confidence and that kind of thing. So that's what I do to pre-screen my applicants.
Smart. So it's just leveraging your time, right? Because it's not a very fun task. Hiring and recruiting, I don't know a whole lot of people that are in love with that, especially when they're trying to run a real estate operation, right? So,
which is interesting because that's like one of the most important things, right? You hire the right person, it can completely change your business, Correct.
But you just need to, I'd say a big proponent of that is outsourcing that top of funnel. And then, once you do have the people in, another extremely important thing is we put everybody through a phone test. So if they interview well, face to face, we say, all right, hey, next part of the interview, we're going to actually have you hop on the phones and just have conversations with people. We'll give you a script. We're going to have you call some leads. A lot of time we'll have, them do a mock call with us just to see how they conversate, because everybody can interview well, right? Mm-hmm. But you put them in the position that they've got to actually do the job, and you see a lot. You see people start getting really nervous and tripping on their words. You'll get people, in front of the phone and computer, and you realize they're completely technologically illiterate, and they're not going to be a good fit. So that's important as well, is do a mock phone test, and then we put them through personality assessments as well.
Big time.
And if they get through that gauntlet right there, and we feel good about them, usually they'll get an offer at that point.
Yeah, I think references are a big thing too, man. I have my people call at least 3 references, if not 5, and just dive deep onto, why they left their last job, how they were to work with. And once you start diving deep into that, it's surprising how honest some people are. I've had people say, hey, you got to check, call my friend. I worked with them. And the friend's like, don't hire him, man. Do not hire him, So I think just making those phone calls to check on their past references too is a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, one thing we need to get better at is we're not calling references, but you can find out a lot from previous employers and contacts. So, yeah, good stuff. I mean, that's pretty much it, in terms of hiring. Make sure that you have enough applicants coming in, so Indeed's where we do most of our recruitment. That's one thing we could talk about if you wanted to, but essentially, if you post enough jobs on Indeed, if you're hiring in San Diego, post a job in San Diego and post additional jobs in all the suburbs around there. So that way you have all that exposure and you're getting more and more candidates, because you got to have enough candidate flow so you don't feel like you're strapped to make a decision on the hire.
Yeah.
So,
how many people are going into Indeed right now and applying? Because I didn't realize you could make over $200,000 working at Indeed.
Right. Well, I was President's Club, Top Gun, so I did really well there. I excelled at it. I don't know if it's still that way anymore, but back when I was there from 2014 to 2016, you can make some pretty good money at Indeed.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on your success, man. Like I said, a lot of people try and find their first deal, and you're doing, and eventually, probably pretty soon, you're going to be doing a deal a day, which is awesome. So congrats on your success. Thanks for sharing your story. Is there anything else you want to share? Do you want people to get in touch with you? Is there anything Anything else that you want to kind of give to the listeners before we jump off here?
No, I mean, if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Nick Perry REI. Happy to help if you got any follow-up questions. Above and beyond what Tony and I covered in the podcast, just let me know. Happy to help.
All right, cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time and some good stuff here. So congrats and good luck with the commercial real estate world.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening. Now go to www.remcommunity.com to connect with today's guest, see our high-level masterminds, and to get free resources. Don't forget to share this with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you on the next episode.